screens. This is pretty wild.
I'm going to mute on my phone so we don't have any potential feedback. But I can hear you on my laptop.
Cool. All right. So, Brian, thanks for hopping on. I know you've been doing some good work with polling. Last time you had me on your show, and I thought it was like a really good conversation. So I figured I'd have you on mine, and we can sit and we can chat. We're now streaming on IG Live as well as YouTube right now so that people can ask questions. I think we could just have like a convo talking about the state of the recall. We can talk about your race a little bit, your thoughts, and where do you want to start? There's so much to cover right now.
Oh, well, I guess I'll introduce myself a little bit. That might be a good jumping off point. So yeah, I'm running for Congress in the 45th district. It's Irvine, Rancho Santa Margarita. In my view, it's one of the must-win seats in order to regain control of the House with like a solid majority. You know, you can get 1 or 2 seats over, but you're still going to have a lot of deadlock if you have some people on your side that are detractors. So yeah, I'm working on that. My website's up there online. It's brianburley.com. Passionate about that. Only Republican in that race. We feel pretty good about our chances so far. Fundraised quite a bit of money. Our message is pretty solid. Have a really detailed platform. But I know that when me and you first started speaking, it was more in regards to the recall. I had heard one of your podcasts. Then I had you on mine. It's over here, actually. Politician Reacts. And we've had some pretty good success with that. Been a little bit harder to manage and to make sure we get stuff out every day than I expected. But that kind of comes with the territory when you're trying to do something and have something released every day. But yeah, I'm trying to help with the recall all I can. I'm doing some polling. We've done this is our 4th poll, I believe. I just posted some of it on my Instagram story, and we can talk about it more specifically. It's still in progress. And there's still a lot to happen, and obviously these are early in general. I think I don't know if you want to speak specifically about the different polling, or if you have any questions about how or why we go about doing it. But
start with that. While you're speaking, I'm actually gonna pull up. I was able to take a screenshot of the results so we can look at them while we're chatting. We have a point of reference.
Yeah, I got them.
You want to go through?
Yeah, I've got the more detailed ones in front of me. So if you want me to, so far we're just under 1,500 results. John Cox was up in the mid 30s, and I was kind of given a timeline, and we switched over to a new platform of, as the results come in, and our early results were older voters. These are trickling in more younger voters. And we've seen even a couple candidates like Kevin Kiley and Major Williams get a little bit more of a bump with younger voters, as has Grinnell. But Cox, he's at 28.77% right now. Then you got Faulkner trailing at about 15.1. And then in between, I guess actually it would be Grinnell, but Grinnell hasn't officially filed. He's at 20.18%. So he's trailing Cox by about 8% in this poll. It's only halfway through, so that could continue to gain. But what I'm hearing is that Grinnell's not running also. So we can have a little conversation on that if you want. This is what I'm hearing. He could, of course, change his mind. That's what I've been hearing solidly for the last month and a half now. Jenner, 4.56%. Everybody else is kind of down in no man's land. Major is actually still at 4%. He was down to he was at 0.75 for the longest time, but these younger voters are more exposed to him, and they're participating in the poll at a later time is what we're seeing. Kiley's at 3%. Doug Oast is at 2%. Diego's at 0%. Jenny Ray LaRoux, I believe is how you pronounce her name. She's at 0%. And then we've got Tramino also at 0%, 0.45%, with 21% undecided. So that's where we're kind of at right now. It could still change. We're still halfway through it.
So let's talk about that. So let's just go down the line right here with Caitlyn Jenner. What do you think? Why is it 5% because you think conservatives are just not buying into Caitlyn Jenner's run? Do you think it's because, in my personal opinion, she has no platform. Also, just a side note, if you guys have a question for me or Brian, we're going to be taking questions. So if you're on Instagram Live, you can do the little question button at the bottom. Also, if you're on YouTube, you can chat and we'll get to your questions. But going back to Caitlyn Jenner, why do you think she's only at 5% with such a celebrity? You'd think that someone with so much money and someone who made Sean Hannity rush out to California on a first-class flight would have a little bit more support behind her.
Well, I also think, I think it's important to talk about all this. It's all kind of a snapshot of where the race is at right now. It's measuring name recognition and enthusiasm. So why is John Cox so far ahead? Name recognition, right? Everybody's seen his name before. That's voted more likely than not back in 2018. But Jenner, I think they thought the name recognition would be more solid. But I was thinking about this the other day. If it was Bruce Jenner running, and if this whole thing didn't happen, if you were to take a time machine, go back, grab Bruce Jenner, and go back 20 years in the future and have Bruce Jenner run right now, I think Bruce Jenner would actually be doing a lot better than Caitlyn Jenner. But that's just a side note. I think it's just showing that the mainstream media and a lot of Republicans, especially the California GOP, they've tried this identity politics approach, and it's starting to backfire to some extent. Hopefully it doesn't backfire at a bad time when we need, a solid candidate. I'm not sold on John Cox. I know a lot of people aren't. So if we're just going based off name recognition, I don't know what that means for like independent voters. We're still trying to get some polling out to them. We're hoping to do that here over the course of the next month, just to kind of gauge where they're at. And maybe if this does pass, if the recall does pass, there could be a spoiler, like and Meet Kevin guy. He's like the only Democrat that's campaigning. Like he could spoil and like no one come out of nowhere, or theoretically out of nowhere, but not really, since there's more Democrats than Republicans by a good margin. So I think Jenner's falling flat because that people have issues with the social issue aspect that Jenner is proposing, or at least that it's assumed is proposing, and also changing policies on that left and right from what I'm hearing. 1 second, with youth sports having a stance, and the next second another. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see at the end of July 31st, I believe, is their next filing deadline to put out their financials. How much money does Jenner have, and how much money do all these candidates have? Because Jenner probably has access to more money, like structurally, than anybody else on this list, I would think. Besides maybe Grinnell, because he's been part of the Trump and the Romney coalition, the Republican Party. But I think Jenner probably even has more ties than that to people that have money, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I just think it's a combination of, I don't know if conservatives have completely bought into it. There was a lot of enthusiasm. I don't know, and I'm maybe I'm being like cynical here, but I think maybe the Jenner camp reached out to all the social media influencers. Like you saw like Tommy Lahren and Dave Rubin, without her saying one single thing about her platform, all of a sudden they're all on Team Jenner. They know nothing about like what's her stance on taxes, what's her stance on how do we fix the water issue. Like all of that to me just seems like, maybe I'm being cynical, that was their whole plan, was we're just going to reach out to all the influencers and use name recognition. That will work. That will get her kind of up in the polls.
But do you need a platform? I mean, this is a serious conversation to have. Do you need a platform, an in-depth one, to win this thing?
Well, I mean, there's candidates in the race who don't have platforms.
Yeah, I don't think John Cox has much of a platform.
I mean, he has a bear, so if
that's his platform.
His platform is a bear. I mean, there's other people on the list right now. Like we've all talked about, Major Williams doesn't really have a platform. So
I think there's something, they say in sales, keep it simple, stupid, right? That's like they're like saying in sales. And I think we have like people that are taking that to like the extreme.
Yeah.
Which is what John Cox is doing, which is Newsom bad, John Cox good. That's essentially he's saying. And then you have people like Major, or I'm trying to think of who else may be on this list. I might, maybe Kevin to an extent, maybe even Anthony to an extent, where there's obviously, I haven't seen enough from Anthony, but what I've just seen with the marketing, is, you got to describe, what does liberate California mean, or what does it mean to it's time to think major at this point? What does that mean for California? Like, you need something that's about California as your central message if you're going to really attract those voters. So it'll be interesting. I always say, like, come up with something really catchy, and I haven't seen anyone really do that. I mean, I guess to John Cox's credit, like, the whole beast thing is incredibly catchy.
And it got plenty of airplay, and it got plenty of people talking about it.
Yeah, for better or for worse. And in a race like this, so I want a platform, but I don't know. Most people are going in there, they're going to vote no or yes on Newsom, and they're going to vote for the name they know the most. I wish it wasn't that way. I've witnessed this firsthand in my races, where you can move name recognition really quick. And, the people that are 0%, I wouldn't say, Major really has a shot anymore, because he was already at 11%, almost at one of our polls. So if you already fell that much, he's kind of like he's in that Kamala Harris late in the Democratic primary phase of his campaign, where he's holding on for dear life. Where, like, Kevin Kiley hasn't campaigned, and he's like equal to or beating most of these people. Like, if he decides to run, and if Grinnell doesn't run, then I think Kiley has like a really strong, a strong pathway. But I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see how these candidates, and I always want to try to help, the conservative movement, make sure we don't have 20,000 candidates, but also, if some of these candidates are going to run, if they're serious about it, no one's ever gone from, in this kind of a race, from my knowledge of politics, no one's ever gone from 0 to 30 to 40%. And in what we have, maybe 4 or 5, maybe 4 months max, 5 months max, probably it'd be in November. I don't know how you do that. I can give the advice I would do, which is that you better have 15 to 20 million, and you better be hitting people in the mail. You better be hitting people on, TV commercials, have a call center.
I think my one last point about Jenner and the whole thing about platform is, it's almost like if someone were to come to your door, they're like a door-to-door salesman, and they didn't have a product to sell, but they're like, okay, but here's the money form to fill out and give me money. It's like, okay, but what are you selling me? Don't worry about it. Just give me $20 and your life's going to be better. But why? So I think that's the issue with Jenner, is that a lot of people are kind of looking at it like, well, what's your solution to stuff? And it just seems like every time I see her talking on interviews, it's always, the same old talking points that we all talk about, how we don't like Newsom, how he's a hypocrite, and he went to the French Laundry, and like, yeah, we get it. Like, that's why Newsom's awful. But like, why are you a better choice than Newsom? Like, why should you replace Newsom? I don't think she's made that connection with voters yet. But
I don't think Jenner is going to make that connection either. I don't think that's the game they're playing. I think all the candidates are playing different games here. I think John Cox is playing the game where he thinks he's entitled to this because he's done it before and he's got the name recognition, and he probably is in the most, like, if you're starting at a starting point, you'd want to be him. Kevin Faulkner's like we talked about in my podcast, like the consensus guy, like, hey, everybody's gonna be shooting their shots back and forth, but maybe Faulkner just waits everybody out, and he ends up being the guy. Jenner is, okay, we need some Democrats and some independents to vote for a candidate. So maybe I can get them based off name recognition and just get enough of the Republicans because I don't think Jenner would be at 5% if you were to hold the vote today. I think it'd at least be 10% just based off of name recognition. I do think, like, these are the hardest core of the hardest core people that are responding to a poll. It's gauging enthusiasm and name recognition. So these are the people that they really don't like Jenner, but the average Joe that just goes on, saw Jenner on Hannity might consider it more at a higher rate than 5%. It might be closer to 10% if I had to guess. It just, we're just spitballing, but
I think, well, I'm going to the San Diego Central Committee meeting on Monday, and Jenner will be there. So I'll be on the ground live. If anyone else is there and wants to meet up, let me know. Because there are some San Diego Republicans out there. And I'll be interested to see, does she blow people away with her? Because I think she gets like 10 minutes to speak. All the candidates are getting like 10 minutes to speak and kind of sell themselves. And there's like 5 candidates. Anthony Trimino was added just now. some other people who I don't think are even registering on your polls because they don't have name recognition.
Well, I didn't put people in if they didn't have websites attached on the, if I didn't see their website, if I couldn't find it easy, or if it wasn't just linked on the registration page of candidates. Because you can ask the Secretary of State to link your page. I know that I'm a member of the Orange County Central Committee for the Republican Party. I was elected last year, and we're having Jenner speak here. I think it's next Monday. So yeah, is it next month? I think it's, I should know this. I think it's the 17th or something. I'll have to go look, but I'll be there if anyone wants to come and say hi. It'll be interesting to watch. Apparently they're sold out and they only have, it was like, they could only fit like 400 people in there already. I don't have to worry about my seat. I have to vote on stuff, but everybody else, good luck. You might want to get there a little early, but I think that's kind of the thing is like people just kind of want to see like the spectacle of like Caitlyn Jenner running, which, you know, it's entertaining for them. Some people are actually like take Jenner really seriously. I can't at this point, but I laid out to you like maybe the math of how Jenner wins. Like maybe Jenner gets to 10% of Republicans, maybe 10 to 15% of independents. And, you know, maybe this vote gets so split up that that's all you need with maybe a couple percent of Democrats where like, you know, because if Cox got 30%, best case scenario, maybe of the Republican vote, that's really only 8% overall because Republicans are 24%. Although I think there'll be more Republican turnout in this race than Democratic turnout by a good margin.
Yeah. So let's talk about enough about Caitlyn Jenner. Let's talk about Kevin Faulconer, who I believe has just kind of been laying low, like you said, is, you know, he's putting his platforms out there. One thing I've noticed is he's been going on a lot of different news organizations that you and I don't watch. So he's been on a lot of Latino news channels. I saw he was on a Vietnamese news channel.
He was.
Yeah, so he seems to be kind of making the rounds on media that we don't watch, that conservatives really don't watch. And you're right, maybe he is the consensus of like he's already trying to get the people, the moderates over to his side. So he's polling at 15% right now, which is not bad at this point, but you know, he's got to make up some ground against the beast.
I don't think I've seen anything from Faulconer though for him to be that high is, and I know that he's got a good fundraising team around him because I in full disclosure, I interned in college for the group that's fundraising for Faulconer, and they fundraise for some really big Republican candidates. So I think Faulconer's in a different position than say like, you know, Diego Martinez, Doug, Jenny, Firmino, these other people that are running, you know, Sarah Stevens, all these other people that are running where they really have to I haven't seen anything from them, and some of them just announced. So how do they get to the point that Faulconer's at? Because Faulconer's been on TV, he's been running ads. I see ads of his on Facebook. So I don't know how you get from, like I said, I don't know how you get from zero to Faulconer, but I think Faulconer, I think we need to be there's this false narrative that I see like in the comment section of everything that somehow Faulconer and Cox are like funded by Soros and all this craziness. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't agree with that premise. You might not like them. You might think they might be more moderate, and that's fine. Just say that. But, you know, it almost automatically goes up to conspiracy theories, and that's not always the best way to go. So I think Kevin Faulconer, if he ends up being the guy, like, and if we have to get behind Kevin Faulconer, then we have to get behind Kevin Faulconer. He's kind of boring. But I think at the same time, he's more of a thought out candidate with a platform than say John Cox. But
yeah,
you know, for me, I'm going to support whoever I think probably will end up winning, which could change. That could change. I mean, over time as we get closer.
Yeah, and that's what people always ask me, like, who do you support right now? I'm like, I can't say. I mean, it's so early and there's so many different people. And, you know, I've had good conversations with some of these. I mean, I spoke with Anthony Trimino, who just got into the race. He's a he's a really interesting candidate. His story is good.
Yeah, I'd like to meet with him sometime.
So he's, there's all these different people who are kind of jumping now. Kevin Kiley is supposedly very close to jumping in. I guess he's working with the head of the recall. But we've talked about the Beast, and is it just name recognition? Is it that the only reason why people are gravitating to John Cox is because of the name recognition?
Yeah, because he's performing better with older voters, which they remember his name. They're not seeing the stuff on social media probably to the frequency that that some of these other candidates, there's some, that we see all this stuff on social media. So I think I think a lot of it's name recognition. I think actually most of it, if not, I think the bear helped, believe it or not. I remember when I was laughing my butt off, my reaction to that commercial. And me and you sent some messages back and forth about how just hilarious that that ad is.
Yeah, especially that screenshot, great big ones.
Big ones.
So many.
My friends edited that up with.
There's so much meme material that I went through 3 or 4 different memes that I then showed to my fiance, and she was like, "That's inappropriate. You can't put that."
Yeah,
come on, it's so funny.
That's why I shared it with you behind on a DM, because I had to be really careful of what I put out there for the most part. Although I usually don't really care, but I think a lot of it does have to do with his name recognition.
Do you think he has an outstanding ad campaign on Facebook where all the olds are right now?
No, I think he's running a really smart campaign. Besides, I know that he had to pay some people back from his 2018 campaign. He should have probably tried to settle that instead of having that kind of stuff. It's kind of like with the Major Williams stuff. Instead of making issues worse, just pay your staff, cut loose, drop it, don't ever acknowledge it again is what I would do. Same thing with John Cox. You have old campaign debt, pay it off, move on. Don't take it. It went to court and did this whole,
just looks bad.
I think I think him and I think Faulkner's doing it too. They're saving their money because, when you get, let's say this thing is the first week of November, everyone's going to get ballots, the first week of October then?
Yeah.
It seems crazy that they're going to print all this and get this all done by even then, right? Maybe we'll have a December election. But, they're going to want, the typical rule of thumb for politics and for all these candidates is these people are going to get their ballots in the mail, right? Mm-hmm. They should have something in the mail with your face and name on it as a gubernatorial candidate, because when they're looking at that way, it means they're grabbing them at the same time. So, for everyone running, get something in probably October. If it's November, October 3rd is what I would say, get something in the mail. So I think John Cox is running these ads that just grab your attention and keeps your attention. And then when it gets to that point, assuming he has money, which I'm assuming he does, he'll just probably maybe put a death nail in everybody right when it all opens, because it'll just be, say he has $10 million. I don't know how much he has. Let's say he had $10 million to make sure he was the top Republican, and say Faulkner has $10 million. I think Faulkner's going to have to get really innovative with his message. He's going to have to bring out a dolphin, maybe, or tarantulas. I don't know. Maybe not a bear, but another animal, just to get people's.
Just a wild animal.
He's going to have to do something. And, when I ran for Congress last time, I had it was when AOC was big, and I would have been younger than her. I would have been the youngest congressional leader in the country. So the left hated it, but we put out ads said, "Let's right the wrong of AOC." And it had a picture of me, and it said, "Let's right the wrong of AOC." And that thing on social media caught on so much. And then people started seeing my name, Brian Burley. And, for our small district, small in the grand scheme of all of California, it's huge compared to every other congressional district. But on Facebook, out of people in the district, that got 2,000 likes, which is a lot when you consider maybe it reached 10,000 people. It means 1 out of 5 people were reacting to it. So that's what these guys have got to do. They got to come up with something catchy. Get on the train for Tramino or something like that. If I'm thinking about all these candidates, think of something that is catchy, because Cox has done that and he already had a lead, which credit to him. If you hate him or love him, that was smart.
Yeah. Speaking of Cox, I saw this article in the California Globe, and I'm always wary about when a campaign releases their own poll that shows like they're winning. So like the headlines, Cox campaign survey finds Newsom recall likely to pass. And then it also goes on to say they also unsurprisingly found if Newsom is recalled, John Cox is the front runner to replace him. So I'm always wary about that stuff. You know more about polls than I do. Is this like a common tactic that like candidates will put out their own polls and say like, hey, I'm crushing it. Me and the Bear are absolutely killing it this campaign cycle.
So I will say that with me, like, so I mean, it's been funny kind of posting my results to the different Facebook groups for each of the candidates, because like the first one had Cox up, and like the Cox group shared it, and they allowed it, and the Grinnell group allowed it, and then Grinnell was up in the second one, and then the Cox group still shared it, but the people, someone that was actually operating like a recall Newsom page didn't like Cox. And I said, oh, no. And then they let the next one that had Grinnell up. And I'm like, I have no, like, I could care less. Like right now, I'm just like putting out this data. I pulled my own races, and I believe my polling even for my own races have been correct, because in the races I've lost in like the last week or two, we don't release them, but I'm like tied or down, or it's like razor thin. So you don't release, because then that would torpedo your own efforts, right? Like, oh, you went from up by 20 to like you're only up by 2, but that's like it tightens. So that happens. I think it's hard to pull yourself, because I think your numbers, like pull yourself as if you include yourself and you're running. Like if I was running for governor, and if my name, although I do think, I'm not trying to sound cocky or anything, I do think I'd be higher than 0%, just based off the fact that I've emailed a ton of people and people know my name. I don't think I'd be up by Cox or Faulkner, but I think I'd be higher than 0. But I'm saying if I were to include myself, and if I was running, that would be difficult to justify, because I'm introducing myself and I'm running the poll, right? So when a candidate runs the poll, they should be having a firm do it. I don't know how Cox is doing it, but I mean, my whole thing is I'm going to support the candidate. We've had results where Major's at 11 and he's at 5 and 4. We've had other polls where Grinnell's at he was at 40 something, because he was on Fox News a whole bunch. And I think people that also got our emails are watching my podcasts, and I saw the numbers on our view count go up. So this could have been an issue with the way that poll was ran, is that people were watching my reaction to stuff and they liked that one interview, and then he came back down to earth, right? So, I mean, people have access to that stuff, and I can't really control every little variable out there. I can only just try to show people what I'm showing. I do think I'd have to go back and look. I don't have it on me right now, but I think Cox isn't as high as where he was in the beginning, which that's going to happen because, when you're just the one Republican, and when he ran against Travis Allen was really not running on a platform. If you look back on it, he was like, hey, I'm the pro-Trump guy, vote for me. That was his platform. That's not about what he's going to do for California necessarily. I heard him only talk about that. Now Cox is going to have more candidates to run against, and naturally he's not going to be, it'll be hard for anyone to get a majority of the Republican vote with that in mind.
Yeah, it's just looking at the numbers here. Most interesting was their analysis of the numbers in the election. That's all about Gavin Newsom. He starts out with only 27% of voters having a very favorable opinion. And more problematic for Newsom is that when you're looking at the mood of the electorate, just 48% of voters believe California is headed in the right direction. Even more troubling for the governor, the critical MPP, other block of voters, are especially pessimistic, with just 43% saying the state is heading in the right direction, while 51% say it's heading off on the wrong track. If turnout is lower than 2003, Newsom appears to be the likely culprit. So I think like when people just kind of look at the numbers, they're like, well, of course he's going to win in a landslide because there's so many Democrats. I'm like, that doesn't mean every single Democrat's going to show up. And it doesn't mean every single Democrat's going to show up and vote to keep him in office. There could be plenty of Democrats who lost their business over COVID and said, screw you. Like, I voted for you in 2018 and now this is what happened to me. So I'm going to turn and call to recall you. So there's,
I think that's the message. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you go ahead.
I'll say I think that's the message. If I'm any of these other candidates about going after Cox, like this guy already lost, he already blew it. Like that has to be kind of like that's obviously not their central message, but to say that, why are they different? Say, hey, I'm going to be the guy that doesn't blow it this time. Yeah. I do think it's a 50-50 proposition also, to your point, that this thing passes, because I think in a normal election year, I think a Republican would probably be about 40 to 42%. A normal election year, I mean, Donald Trump isn't on the ballot because I think Donald Trump kind of like weighs down the Republican vote in California a little bit, because he's not as popular here. So say, in a normal year, it was 40 to 42, and turnout, say you have this thing in November or December, and people are not aware of this election, but Republicans are. And, you've got, even if you do have, a ton of different candidates, a ton of groups, like, I'm trying to help with it. You have all these different organizations trying to help. You're going to have probably a big push, I'm guessing, from some big DC, money organizations pushing this. I think it's a 50-50 proposition with that in mind, because the Democratic turnout will be depressed while the Republican one will probably be as maxed out as it's going to be in a special election.
Yeah. Richard Grinnell, should we just skip him since he's not running?
Well, I don't want to say he's not. I mean, he could change his mind, but what I've heard is that he's looking at, I heard he was looking at maybe governor next year, which doesn't make any sense. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it this year and then go next year. Yeah. But I've also heard
get your
US
name
Senate
out there now. And
yeah, I think, I don't think he's confident right now in maybe just the field and also the effort in general, because I think that's what Kylie's also waiting on. They're trying to make sure that it's a good environment to jump in, because if you run and you lose, then it's kind of harder to go back in and do it again. So I think what I heard is that he's looking at US Senate next year. I don't, I heard that from a few different people that have been around Republican politics in California and have much more say than I do. They've been around Republican politics longer than I've been alive. So take with that what you will. But I don't think he's going to run. And I think maybe that's why Kylie's considering it more, because if you can't have both of them run, it just doesn't make sense. Like it makes no sense, because only one of those could potentially take that avenue. And honestly, I think Faulkner kind of takes like a similar avenue that even they do. Yeah.
So Kylie, who looks like he may jump in based on an article I saw this week. I don't know. I know it's just running for governor, but I like Kylie in the assembly, and I harp on this all the time. Not everybody has to run for governor. And that's one thing that like drives me nuts, is like, there's a lot of really good candidates in this race. And I look at some of them and say, like, you may not be governor, but you would crush it as an assemblyman or a state senator.
Who are you talking about? Major Williams? I'm kidding. Sorry.
I mean, if he wasn't a grifter, he would be good. If he was like just a guy who was genuine and actually wanted to run, I'd be like, well, you could probably actually get a state assembly seat
agree.
And make changes, but you're not serious. We know that. You're
not
really in this.
There's people on the ballot that aren't even, they wouldn't win their assembly primary. I mean, there are a lot of these people. It's kind of like when Trump was on the ballot, or when Reagan was on the ballot, or someone that's like to like the right, like they'll look back on it, and people want to be able to tell their kids, hey, I was on the ballot and I was on the same ballot as Donald Trump. I feel like people in this race, like at some point, if you're going to get like 0.5%, 1/4%, like you're wasting everybody's time. Like get the hell out of the race and, let the big boys play. If you can't get your numbers up in the next few months, they don't even have to take my poll into consideration. Other people are going to do polls, and it's kind of common sense. If you're, if you got like $10,000 and like someone else has $10 million, and it's not all about money. That's what everyone would always say as a candidate, but it is to a large extent when you need to like reach out to 20 million people. Like, what are you going to do with $10,000 compared to 10 million? It's just like, so yeah. It's just, you're wasting everybody's time at that point. Someone asked a question if you want me to.
Yeah, someone said, what makes Major not a serious candidate? Can you please enlighten me? And Camille Bethany.
You can talk to Camille, I'm sure.
You can talk to Camille. She is the Minor Williams expert. Yeah, but you see my page after this episode. Yeah, Camille has done a lot of work on this, more than anybody. So we're not going to turn this into the Major Williams dog pile.
There's enough of that.
I mean, we could just skip over Major Williams at this point. I still don't know why he's running. We've talked about this before. I think he's just trying to keep this going as long as possible, which I think it's
for his business. Long story short, if you can talk to Camille, or if you have any questions, you can look at my 2 videos on my podcast, Politician Reacts. I get pretty in depth about that stuff too.
Yeah, we've all done deep dives on Major, so there's plenty of stuff out there about Major. Diego, we've had him on. Definitely a smaller name candidate, but he's out there hustling. I like Diego. He's a good guy. Doug Ossie, I heard him speak at the last San Diego Central Committee meeting. If you need like something to help you sleep at night rather than like CBD or something, I would suggest putting on like Doug Ossie speeches.
He's NyQuil for you.
Oh my gosh. He started speaking and I was like, you looked around the room and people were they were on their phones. They were just like, what is going on here? And, I'll say this, I'll give Major Williams one prop. Okay. I'll say this. I'll give Major Williams one compliment. Major Williams brought enough energy in that event that he started it off, and then it was followed by Doug Ossie. I believe some of the former Major guys are on IG Live right now and can attest to it. He brought energy to start it off, and then Doug Ossie comes in afterwards, and it's like, oh, okay, good night.
Well, if we talk about Diego real quick, because you mentioned him, he was out of all this list of people, he's the guy that he should run for state assembly. I think he's a very knowledgeable guy. I don't know what his pathway is. I met with him. He's a really nice guy. I met with him in person. I had breakfast with him. I don't mean anything that I say personally for any of these people. Like, I'm sure most of them, vast majority of them are probably nice, decent people that are they want to help the state. But I will say I think that Diego probably has the smallest ego out of all the people I've met with that I've analyzed that are looking to run, and I give him props for that. Doug, I don't, I've spoken to people that have been around Doug longer than me, and they don't think he should probably be running. So that tells you maybe about where he's at. I think he's well past whatever political prime he had. Yeah. Maybe he just got elected during a time where things were much simpler. People would just open up the newspaper.
I don't think old white guy who's been in politics forever is going to ring well in California.
Well, John Cox has that lane already too. So
yeah, John Cox is already the old. Well, he's the old white guy who just can't seem to win in politics.
Yeah, I don't know. And these people don't have to stay on the ballot. They have time to drop, and they're not even officially on the ballot just because their name's on that list.
Yeah. Undecided. I guess we can come back to that at the end. The fact that there's 21% undecided. Jenny Ray LaRue. I've never heard of her. I don't think I've even looked up her platform, to be honest.
She's doing kind of what Diego's doing. She's going around to these different events, meeting with people. She's on Instagram. She has a website up. Like I said, my first standard on all this, do you have a website? And is it easy to find? If it's not easy to find, then I'm sorry, I couldn't find it. I mean, to be honest with you, I think we could, if I were to swap out some of these candidates with, what's his name? Is it not North Star? What's his name? What's his name right now?
Wildstar?
Wildstar. I don't want to say
Nicholas Wildstar.
Or say, I can't even think of the other people right now. I'm kind of
there's a couple other guys. I think I'm trying to think of the four. Well, Anthony Trimino's on there along
Sarah
with Caitlin
Stevens.
Sarah Stevens. I was like, I want to say Summer Stevens, but that's our district attorney. And then there's Joseph Luciano, who's speaking on Monday.
I've spoken with him. He's a nice guy.
And then there's somebody else who's speaking. There's 5 people all together who's speaking. If anybody knows who is speaking on Monday in San Diego, you can let me know. Oh, then there's Daniel Mercury. Mercury? Is that his name? Mercury? People have sent me a lot of stuff by him. But it just goes to show.
Maybe I'll try to swing by there. Some people were asking me if I should interview all these people, and I don't know which ones would actually do it and whatnot. But maybe I'll swing down there because it seems like you guys have a bigger cast of candidates down there than we will for ours. So maybe I can go up there, introduce myself, and see if any of them want to have a 30.
Let's pull it up right
session.
now.
I just see if I can get down there. But yeah, I think if you were to replace, these candidates with any of the other lower name candidates, it would be kind of the same result. Like Diego Martinez, for example, there's 1,500 people that have almost responded, and 4 people have voted for Diego out of the whole, I think it's like 1,490 something. So 4 people out of that, right? Mm-hmm. 4 have voted for Jenny, 6 have voted for Anthony. Those aren't big numbers.
Okay. So it's guest speakers Elizabeth Heng, who is running for U.S. Senate. Has she run before? I feel like I've seen that name before. She's run for U.S. Senate.
Elizabeth Heng.
Or maybe not. Then we have Caitlyn Jenner speaking for gubernatorial, Jenny Ray LaRue. Okay, so I'll get to see Jenny firsthand. Joseph Luciano, Sarah Stevens. Sarah Stevens, I think, is the one. I looked at her site a long time ago. It says, like, make California golden again. And I said, I don't know if the playing off the Trump thing is a working platform. And then Anthony Trimino, who I've spoken with. So it'll be interesting to see all of them again, or at least some of them for the first time. And then I guess we'll finish up with
She ran in 2018. Elizabeth Heng. She
okay.
She actually was in the general, and she got 42.5% of the vote. Wait, is that correct? Or is that a different race? No, that was for Congress. I'm sorry. I'm misspeaking. She ran for Congress in 2018, 16th district. I don't know where that's at, but
Senate is a tougher uphill battle. So final one, Anthony Trimino. I've spoken with him. I've interviewed him, met him and his wife, and I think a couple of his sons. I know we have some Trimino fans on IG Live right now. Good story. I mean, he's got the businessman angle, the entrepreneur, the great American dream story, the Cuban American. His grandparents came here from Cuba, fled communist Cuba. So yeah, the thing about Anthony, I think, and this is probably in his wheelhouse, and he's an expert at this. I think he has a marketing company, so he's got to really like hit the pedal and go like full on offense with marketing, with name recognition right now.
Yeah, I know he's having an event next week. I don't know if I'm invited, but I'd swing by and say hi to him and try to pick his brain real quick to see if I am invited, I'll swing by because I do want to meet the guy because a lot of people have suggested that I should. But
yeah, I'm sure there's somebody in the chat right now who could get you an invite. So if anybody can get Brian,
I don't know, but I know that also he's actually technically running he lives in my district too. So I think we'd have some things to talk about in general.
There you go.
Perfect. I don't know what his game plan is. I'm sure they have more of a game plan than some of these other people from what I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, he has a good team behind him, and I mean, you don't get to where he is as successful as he is without knowing how to build a team and execute a plan. So I think I'll be excited to see like what happens after this Saturday, following Saturday the 19th, and see like how it goes on the offense with marketing. I think they need a debate. Like sooner or later, once we set the date, the date, we're going to need a debate, and how many people actually get on the stage. We're not going to have like 100 people on stage, but even having 12 of them on stage, is that okay?
That'd be something awesome to do in Huntington Beach. I'm just putting that out there. If there's some way I can help with that, I'd love to have that. And
I mean, I'm also offering San Diego County if they want to come down to San Diego County.
Debates.
They could have one here in San Diego, just so I don't have to drive up to Orange County. Not that it's that far. So undecided. You think it's just a lot of people? And who's the respondents? Is this all Republicans or conservatives, or is this just?
So I haven't obviously this hasn't been published, or I can look at the actual data because I have it here. It's 90% Republican, 8% no party preference, 1 Dem, and 1 other. So it's 9 out of 10 are Republican. This poll is showing the only thing that I'm also seeing is that recall support is down to 93. I think it was up to like 97 or 98 in the last poll. So it's down a little bit, but once again, these are kind of like in the they're in a range, so we can take that however we'd like. There's another thing we did poll on that I didn't send to you, and we can talk about this. The question was, you indicated that you were undecided. Please let us know which candidate you most likely would vote for if the election were held today. You can also write in a candidate under the other option. So in this, I think I kind of published this at one point on my story, but Cox is at 34% of the people that are undecided if they had to vote today. After that, you have it's relatively flat. I mean, there's people that got Grinnell at 12, Faulkner at 10, Jenner's at 9. To our point, talking about the pathway, if enough undecided people were just like leaning, and if Jenner does a little bit better than what the poll's showing right now, then maybe that name recognition comes into play.
That could be Jenner's like new platform. She could just be like, "If you're undecided, vote for me."
Yeah.
Give me a try.
I've been undecided for the most part of my life.
I haven't figured out what I am, so give me a try. That's a horrible campaign. It's like we're getting banned off YouTube already. That's it.
I'm kidding.
My brand new channel's getting banned already. They're gonna be like, "That's hate speech." You can't say that.
Kylie's at 9%, tied with Jenner, undecided. Major's at 4. Doug's at 4, Diego's at 1, Jenny's at 1, Anthony's at 0, and then other, which I'd have to export this, which I'm not going to do right now, is at 13%, which I'm interested to see who they're picking. I think they were picking, like, some people thought they're participating and they like Newsom. So, like, some of them are picking Newsom. When I did look a while ago, I think some people put Donald Trump in, like these crazy answers. So, like, they can put whatever they want.
Donald Trump running for governor of California. I'm just imagining how it would just be the views of just Donald Trump going head to head against Newsom would just be the circus that we've all been missing.
Someone said, commented on our joke about the undecided voters.
That's if anyone out there is on the Jenner team, I won't be offended if you steal that campaign slogan about Jenner.
I think it's a little. I meant it as a joke. I wish
it's a little on the nose. Anyway,
I wish them well.
They seem like nice people, and I'll see the whole team on Monday. So I think if you want to take some time, give us an update on your race. You're going up against Katie Porter, and then afterwards we'll start taking some questions and comments. So again, if you want to comment if you're on Instagram, comment on the little question bubble, or if you're on YouTube, just go ahead and start chatting away in the chat box and let us know what you want us to ask me or Brian. But Katie Porter.
Yeah, I think if you look at all the districts, I know we have that one that it dips into San Diego County that Marriott's targeting. I think 45 is like the most winnable seat out of all these. I think I might just actually kicked my camera on accident. I think we're good. And I think, the strategy to win is to rile up the base and get younger voters back on board. We need voters under 30 to get back on board in Orange County. And that'll be important in 45. We are also waiting on redistricting just naturally to see where things are at. 45 is going to get some chunks probably cut out of it, maybe moved around a little bit, which is fine. I think it's going to be a more favorable Republican seat in terms of where we're at. We've had some really good fundraising success. I think we're in a really good spot going into the primary next year. I think people in 45 also, they're a little bit of an interesting, like, where they think politically how this race or this district shifted so much. It was a +7 Porter, but it's not a +7 district, and I want to make sure that's not one. I am running, to be one of our youngest congressional leaders in the country at 28, so I'll be able to appeal to that group. A little bit about my story. I first moved out here to California when my mother came out here for cancer treatment. So she unfortunately passed away 10 years ago, but I know what it's like to have to go and pull yourself up from below the poverty line. And people that are struggling, especially post-COVID, they want a voice. They want someone who they feel like can relate to them. And I know that I can do that. And I know, as you know, with my business, I'm not a career politician, believe it or not, even though I guess my thanks is politician reacts back here. It's more of just a catchy slogan. I don't want to be in Congress for 30 years. I want to go there, make change, and come back and start a family, because I'm relatively young. I think I still have time to do all that in this short period of time. So Porter hasn't done a great job either. On top of that, I could probably go a whole podcast about all that. I won't attack her too much, since that's not what we're here for. But I feel like she's not represented the district responsibly, and has been more on the extreme end of the Democratic Party. And I believe in 2022 we will see the repercussions of her poor leadership, and I'm hoping that I'm the guy that we all can support. And whatever God has planned for me, I'm ready for it. I've got the thick skin. We've got the team and the operations ready to be successful and take back the seat and take back the House next year.
So it was Darrell Issa before? Is that who was it?
This was before? Mimi's seat.
Oh, okay.
And then that was in 2018. This is the seat, the last seat in Orange County we haven't taken back since 2018. And then Greg Rath ran against her in 2020, and that was, I think, like a 7-point deficit. But we got to be able to fundraise a lot, and I think we have the potential to do that. I have people helping me that they fundraise for people like Madison Cawthorn last year and some other big names. So I feel pretty good about where we're at. It's early; things are shifting with wherever the lines are, but whatever God has planned for me, I'm ready to fight. I'm not done fighting for California, for the people out here in Orange County, especially.
Yeah. Someone said, if you have something to share about her, I'm listening. They're a faithful Orange County person. So,
well, I think it says, I'm not going to get into specifics about all this, because like I said, we could have a podcast on that whole thing. But she didn't even get the committee that she wanted to keep. Pelosi didn't even allow her to continue on that committee. So if your own party doesn't like you enough to let you continue on the committee that you're so passionate about, and if your own party doesn't like you, and if your district doesn't like you, and they just voted for you by default, because I believe the Republican Party hasn't put out a strong team out there to get out the vote, then I think that says a lot about her. But I mean, I could pull out, the letter we put out to voters already in the district, and I could get even more specific. But I think the fact that her own party has had issues with her says a lot. If Pelosi's mad at you,
that's not good.
That's not good.
Definitely not good. All right, let's see. Gonna try and pull up these questions without blocking my camera. Anthony Trimino seems promising, but how could he gain enough traction to make him a serious candidate? And the same person asked, the recall election debate is coming. Oh, I saw that. That was from Diego. Sent me something about it. Regarding Trimino, like it's about getting your name out there. I mean, he's got a good story and he's got a good platform. It's just all about marketing. It's a good thing he's in marketing, because that will definitely help him. That gives him the leg up that he can just do it himself.
I have a critique. I don't know if everyone that loves Trimino is going to like it, but I don't really care. I make people mad all the time, and I guess that's what I'm here for. Is you got to stop putting photos out of him smoking cigars. If he's going to run on the ballot as a CEO and entrepreneur, someone's going to take that and make him look like he's out of touch and high class. I know that might sound crazy, but when I see someone smoking a cigar, I've been invited to cigar socials, and it's always with like the most. And I'm not saying Anthony's like this, and he's entitled. People, I've had cigars with people. I'm saying often when you have like a gentleman's club with cigars, not a gentleman's club. I don't think I'm using the right term there. Like it's a men's group. It's not the best look. And we have a group in Huntington Beach that do that. And I would just say, don't do that. That would be my advice, because it gives off this elite status that I know it doesn't make sense. Maybe you don't agree with me, but Maybe you do. I don't know if you agree with me. Like some of the stuff I've seen with that, like, oh, you can't stop. Like someone posted something, you can't stop this guy, and he's smoking a cigar, and it's like he's just smoking a cigar. Go out and campaign. That would be my critique. I don't know what liberate California means. I like some of the stuff I've heard where I watched some of your podcasts with him, but I don't know if liberate California. If trying to describe that to voters. What does liberate California mean? I don't know what that means to the average voter. Like it gets back to the keep it simple, stupid.
He could have been Cuban, and now this is literally just a thought in my head. So apologies to anybody if it just comes off as like half baked. Being he's Cuban American, if he's going with this liberate California idea, he could have really gone over the liberate like Cuba. Like, isn't there a Cuba, like Cuba Libre, like this idea of like Cuban freedom? Like he could have gone off that, or is that too much of a harken back to like the communist revolution? Or I don't know. I mean, there were
I think there's a way
in Cuba
for them. I mean, he's got smart people around, I'm sure, and they can take this advice and maybe they'll use liberate California and it'll be great. I don't know. I'm saying if I was campaigning and his name is almost inside of liberate California, but his name needs to be front and center. It doesn't need to be liberate California. Like that's not what you need to see. You need to see his name. Like I said, if it's jump on the Termino train or team Termino or like whatever, something different. I don't think liberate California is going to be easy to get across to 20 million people when we didn't talk about it, but your dollar is worth, when you're running for office, is worth different things at different, it's worth different values at different times. So your dollar right when people get their ballot in the mail is worth probably more than it is right now. But also, if people are getting 20 things in the mail at the same time, if they're getting 20 ads, you might be better off putting out something right now, getting your name out there, than trying to compete with 20 other people that are saying the same thing. So I'm sure I'm not saying anything they don't know about, and I don't mean any offense by it. I'm saying these are my critiques from the very small things I've seen.
Yeah. I think they're professionals, but at the same time, I think I put in Cuba Libre, and it's just a whole bunch of sodas and drinks. So that doesn't work. Okay. But I don't know. That's one thing to think about. Like if you want to tap into, especially here in California, I've been saying this. I think the future of the conservative movement really is going to come out of the Asian American and Latino communities here in California. And it's just because the left has gotten so far left with their culture and the social issues that I just don't think Asian Americans and Latinos line up with the left on a lot of those issues. So,
and to my critique, does liberate apply to all those groups though? If that's what your message is, I don't think so. I don't know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that would be as productive, but I mean, he's got smart people around him. I'm sure he's got marketing people. That would be my critique. If you're going to use it, you're going to have to, I feel like you're going to have to explain that. And you don't want to have to explain anything. You want it like clear as day.
Yeah. On the cigar thing, I guess, I don't know. I'm a big cigar smoker, so it didn't really bother me. I was like, oh, it's pretty cool. But the way you put it, yeah, it can be construed as like, it can be construed both ways. It could be construed as like he's a boss and like he's successful, or it's like he's out of touch. And it depends on who you're trying to reach out to. So if that were true, then I would be out of politics because I like taking pictures of me on the golf course smoking cigars at country
and that's fine. I'm saying, I mean,
if they see me, if they see me at all the lawyer golf tournaments smoking cigars, then I would be out of touch already.
No, but I'm saying, would Anthony Trimino put a picture, and maybe he would you put a picture, say he's sending a flyer, a 9x12 flyer out to voters, would he have a picture of him with a cigar or a picture with him with his family? Because I feel like the best things that they have is talking about how he's a family man.
Oh, family, absolutely.
And I think, and I don't know, this is Instagram, so maybe it's just, hey, it's him having a cigar, which is fine. I've just seen it like on stories and stuff. And they can take this advice and they can hate me for it or whatever. I'm just saying that wouldn't be something I would put out there actively. And I know it might just sound stupid, but I've had cigars before. I'm like I said, I've been at like social events where people have cigars, and I always kind of think of like, you know, some of these events are some people with like that are donors, and it always rubs me the wrong way because they're always talking, and the way they're talking about things, it's like, hey, an elite status. And in my experience with cigars, yours might be different on a golf course. I think voters think it's kind of like, you know, there was a person that ran for Congress last year, and they all had wine, and it was like they were all celebrating her announcement, and they were all drinking wine together. And I said, this looks so bad because you're like with like all these special interest people, and you're all drinking wine together, taking pictures, smiling. It doesn't look good. I don't think Tremino's doing that. I'm just saying it'll be easy for people to target that. Put him with him and his family. That's a really strong thing to say, because I don't see John Cox really doing that as much. I don't see.
No, he has plenty of pictures of him and his family. I think if you go on his site, that's like the first thing. But you're right. Like, I think family man would be definitely the image you want to put out there. But
family man came from something to nothing, businessman, and now I want to fix California.
Yeah, started from the bottom. Now we here.
Yep.
So if anybody else has any questions or comments, let us know in the chat on IG or on YouTube. Here's something interesting. If you could take like little bits and pieces of each gubernatorial candidate right now, and it's a lot to choose from. I mean, there's like 3,000 of them running, so you have your choices. If you could take like one thing from one candidate and put it with another candidate and like make the perfect gubernatorial candidate.
I don't have to Frankenstein this and actually have it be like bits and pieces, do I? I'm sorry, that's a dumb joke.
I would take the hair of Anthony Trimino on top of the torso of like the qualities and like how they run and their platform and everything.
Yeah. Actually, I want to say one thing. Camila said something about a beer. I think a beer is different from a cigar, and this might just be a whole nother argument. People always say, "Do you want to have a beer with a candidate?" So, like, that's usually like the test. Would you vote for this guy? Would you have a beer with him? I don't know if cigar is the same standard. Yeah. Could be.
That's the George Bush thing.
Yeah, it was a George Bush thing. So, I think I would take the. I was going to make a bad joke about Jenner. I'm not going to do that. I would take the name recognition of John Cox, the connections of Rick Grinnell, the public speaking skills of Kevin Kiley, the social media marketing, Major Williams, the Latino outreach of Diego Martinez, because I think he does talk about that issue really well. I don't know what I would take from Doug. I don't know. I can't say anything about him.
You feel really calm and at ease.
I think the story of Trimino, from what I've heard, I would take his story. I think, I think for Jenner, I would take I was going to say mental toughness, but I don't know if that's necessarily. It's if Jenner can make it through this and stay with all the jokes that are going to have, and however you feel about like someone switching their gender. If Jenner can go through all that without a lot of, like we've seen like Major, like he's been having a couple outbreaks. If Jenner can make it through this, because there's going to be a lot of criticization towards Jenner and I think Jenner actually can. I think people that I've talked to that have made slip-ups in front of Jenner said like it's like not even a big deal to Jenner. So maybe like the mental toughness, because I think training for the Olympics took some mental toughness. If I needed to make sure that if I was having a campaign event and if I wanted it closed down relatively quickly, I think I would bring Doug out to speak for a few minutes and close up shop.
Yeah, if the energy is just too high at an event,
you have Doug really come out with a jukebox that says closing. It's playing closing time on a jukebox.
And he just comes out and tells a story about like his first dog or something, like back on the farm.
Yeah, I think that's what I would do. If I had to I think Kevin Kiley is probably the most politically sound candidate out of all of them. I'd want more of like if I was going to look for like more of a politician that's polished. I didn't say anything about Kevin Faulconer. I guess I would take his experience because I think his experience gets hit like people talk about it negatively a lot, but I think it's more than anybody else on this list. Like his political experience is more valuable than, well, maybe than Kevin Kiley. I don't know. Kiley's just, I still think I'd rather be a mayor of a really big city. And having said that, hey, I took on the Democrats in one of the bigger cities in the state. I think that's a really strong message. What about
especially
you?
when you're in the driver's seat, that makes a big difference between a state assemblyman who just has to vote on stuff.
Was my Frankenstein candidate similar to what yours would be?
It was probably more detailed than I even thought about. I asked the question now, and I was thinking about it. I'm like, oh God, I asked a question I don't even know the answer to. Let's see. Going down the list, I probably take the flowing locks of Caitlyn Jenner combined with, no, I would take probably the celebrity. Well, even the celebrity of Caitlyn Jenner doesn't really do anything because it seems like she's already lost momentum. So the celebrity is already not a factor for her. I'm not sure I would take anything from Caitlyn Jenner. Let's see. I would take Caitlyn Jenner's her incredible ability to flip-flop on issues at a moment's notice. I would take nothing from Jenner. I agree with you on the Faulconer. I think taking his experience running a blue city in California is kind of invaluable. I think people look over that too much. The fact that we had a Republican mayor not that long ago, like 6 months ago. And now we've gone the completely different direction. By the way, we have passed the recall time for Todd Gloria. So if anybody wants to start a recall against Todd Gloria. So I think that the experience of Faulconer is valuable. John Cox, I would take his bear. Maybe his money. I don't know. Like the money, the personal wealth, but like a lot of these guys have like good money.
I felt just to interject real quick in your analogies on each of these and which parts you take. I feel like it's hard to say, to even judge that on these candidates. Hey, do they have any money? Will they put any money, where their mouth is? Because people say, well, that's none of your business how much money they have. But like I said, in order to go from 0 to like 30%, you're not going to do it, raising $25 here and there.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about, I'm just not a fan of Cox, and that's the problem. Like, I just can't get over how badly he performed in 2018. So to me, it's like, he's just a non-factor. And then, I mean, Richard Grinnell, since he's not even running, I'm just going to skip him all together. Kevin Kiley's thinking about running. I would say Kevin Kiley has a little dash of that fight that I liked about Travis Allen. That like that spark that like Republicans seem to always be missing is going on the offense and like, hey, we're going to sue Gavin Newsom and we're going to take this to the Supreme Court. And like, I'm just going to be a thorn in your side. And if there were like 20 Kevin Kileys in the legislature, it would just be fantastic because we need more thorns in the side of the Democrats right now. So I like that fight about Kevin Kiley. More Republicans need that throughout the state. I'd agree with you with Diego Martinez about his outreach to the Latino community. I think he does a good job. I like that he does his lives, like one in English and then one in Spanish. That's really cool.
I think he's knowledgeable too. He's very knowledgeable.
Yeah, he's very passionate too. I like that he's passionate and he's like, I just want to do this because I want to help California and I love this state. So that's important. That kind of humble, like, I'm just here to help. I'm not here to like, pump up my own ego or business. Which, speaking of, well, I would take the outreach of Major Williams, the ability to convert like young voters to your side. Like that's another, I guess, compliment I'll give Major Williams, is he was able to like reach out to people who don't typically look like Republicans, who are younger, and get them on his side. I don't know if that's like the social media aspect of what he did, but I would take that. Who am I missing?
Doug.
I would take the grandfatherly stories of Doug, because everybody needs a good grandfatherly story, about what it was like in the Korean War. I'm kidding. If there's someone in Doug Ossey who hears the Doug Ossey campaign who hears this, I'm very sorry. I'm sure he's a wonderful guy.
With 5 people helping him, supporting him across the state. No, I was kidding.
There's somebody who's logging into the AOL account right now who's like,
they're on a typewriter.
Yeah. They're logging into their AOL account and they're like, I am very upset that you would say such mean things about Mr. Ossey.
This will be to you in 5 days on the Pony Express.
Signed with my feather pen. He's not that old, but he comes off that old. Yeah, I think the entrepreneurship, the business acumen of Tremino, I would take. Just seeing his facility and seeing what he's done, and speaking with him about his business and understanding like how he built the business, I would definitely take that from Tremino. So that's my Frankenstein.
We kind of talked about it briefly about like candidate egos, and I've lost a race, and I think it's a big punch to your ego. Even though if you didn't have it, I didn't think I had a huge one, but like, someone thinks we're snarky, or just joking, having fun.
We're just having, in the words of the famous Dean Martin, we're just trying to have a little fun, folks. That's all.
If you want somebody, I mean, even I tell people this because I'm running for office. If you want somebody who's a teleprompter, you're talking to the wrong guy. But yeah, talking about egos, it'll be interesting to see who has a big ego out of this whole field. It's actually interesting to see in all the races, because there's always, whether you win or lose, there's always a theory as to why or how, when if you were to take a step back and actually look at it from a different perspective, or like the logical perspective, there's usually like a reason why. I mean, if you look at local city council races, why do certain people get reelected? Well, because their their designation on the ballot is council member or mayor. So people are likely to vote for somebody who's already there, they think has the experience, but they'll act like, oh, it was because I worked so hard and I did this. But some of those people didn't do anything for their reelection. They just assumed they had it, and they might have because people weren't researching the race. So it'll be interesting. I think, like I said, I don't think Diego has a big ego. I'm interested to see if any of these other guys do. I think John Cox has an ego. I think the people that I've spoken to is that he feels like entitled to this. He feels entitled to this.
I think he kind of gets insulted, or I think he kind of takes it as a personal insult that maybe Faulkner is the chosen one out of the establishment GOP, as opposed to last time. I feel like, because it just seemed, I don't know, that's just my personal opinion after seeing him at the last gubernatorial San Diego event, was, he didn't seem that happy about Kevin Faulkner. He said some things about that were directed at Kevin Faulkner. You could tell, like, he was like, we don't need a Republican light or a Democrat light or something like that. And I was like, ooh, I wonder.
Well, he said he was just like Newsom. Apparently, I heard that from somebody that, I don't know if it was on Fox News or somewhere. He said that Faulkner is just like Newsom. I think he has a little bit of insecurity about where he's at in the race, even though he's starting at a certain point. I don't think the establishment. I talked about this the other day. At least from my understanding, and I've dealt with this in the race that I'm in. Because I don't think, I'm not the establishment guy necessarily, but also I don't think I don't there's not an establishment candidate in my race, and I don't think there's going to be one. I don't think the establishment has picked anybody in this race, but I talked about it on a live the other night. The OCGOP voted on, I was actually absent. My alternate voted on this one. It was about 2 meetings ago, I think. about calling a special election convention at the California GOP, where we will vote to endorse a candidate. And apparently candidates that will participate in the convention will have to say if they don't get the endorsement, like they will step aside, which I thought was a really interesting approach. I don't know what you think about that. I think in a race like this, if you could have like the party's endorsement, it does make a difference. And to the point of these people at 0%, I don't know how much poll you'll have on those people. I think the people are only going to consider maybe 2 or 3 candidates realistically. But yeah, I think the party's going to try to interject at some point and endorse someone. But I don't think, like, at least from people I've talked to, I don't think like Faulkner's the chosen one or Koch is the chosen one or some of these other people.
Someone asked, how do you start a recall in Todd Gloria? You get signatures.
A lot of them.
A lot of signatures. But the good thing is you have a big pool to pick from in San Diego. So
someone asked about Rick Grinnell. Is he not running for sure? I was told that emphatically about 2 months ago it wasn't happening, and then I was told that it might. He could change his mind, but we'll see. But everything I've heard is like it's not happening. He's considering Senate next year. Could be wrong. Even I don't know. Did you see Kylie's blog post a little while ago? He said that Grinnell was still considering. So I don't think it's going to happen. He does have that fixed California PAC, which I'm guessing will help him if he ever wants to run for a statewide office.
Yeah. And hopefully he does something with that PAC and not just starts it to, create a PAC and whatever. I hope he actually, give credit where credit is due. I hope he is as successful as Stacey Abrams out in Georgia.
Yeah.
So we can only hope. Anything else to touch upon? We've been chatting for about an hour and 15. If anybody else has any questions or comments, we can finish it up here. We've talked a lot about governors, so this was like your gubernatorial update.
Yeah, I'm seeing if there was any questions in this feed. I don't see anything.
Cool.
Someone asked, the last question was why are we so snarky? So, although I don't know if you have another place where you see questions. There's the question.
I'm seeing just on IG Live and YouTube. I just like joking around. I think we have to joke around. It's politics, and like it's serious, but at the same time, we have to be able to laugh at our elected leaders. So someone said thank you, and I say you're welcome. Any rallies scheduled soon? I know Kevin Paffrath was talking about how he's having a bunch of rallies up in San Francisco. That's the one person we didn't really chat about was Kevin Paffrath, because this was all Republicans.
We can talk about him real quick.
Yeah, we could touch on him.
I'll
let you go first.
I touched on him briefly. I said that he might be like the guy that comes and sneaks in and wins the thing. If there's not really a strong Democrat on the other side, he's the only guy I'm really aware of. Isn't there some like adult film star on the left running though too that apparently ran last time, so she probably has name recognition.
I think she runs like all the time. So like porn stars always run. That's like their thing. I don't know. Someone said you'll always find 1 or 2 porn stars on the list.
Is that true? Is that like typical in a recall election or just election?
I was having drinks with some people, some insiders and a PAC guy, and they were talking about how there was a porn star on the ballot, and they're like, yeah, it happened in 2003 too. Like porn stars show up on the ballot just for the
people are trying to promote themselves for better and for worse, usually, like that case, and like the Major Williams case promoting himself too. But I think there was some event that I saw. Someone sent me something. I thought it was down in Westminster. I remember. I think it was for like the California Patriot Group. I'd have to look it up. I don't have it on me handy, but I could look it up here if you want me to while we're chatting. It'll take me 2 seconds probably. But I think Kevin is, we talked about like he has like a 50-point platform. I actually think he's a fairly impressive guy just based off of how well he speaks. He kind of comes across as the generic YouTuber, doesn't he?
Kevin Pavra, yeah, he kind of like, and it's funny, he went like all gubernatorial, and then this past week he went all financial, and I was like, okay, so what happened to the gubernatorial stuff? I'm confused. Is it like both now? He's one of those people that like, I'm not sure if he's doing this because he really wants to be governor, or he's doing it because he wants to promote his business and increase his numbers.
I think maybe, but I think he could sneak up and actually win based on the fact that like, there's no one on the other side, and like there's a chance that this thing could get 50% plus one yeses to recall him, and then get like 10 really strong performing Republicans, and then only one or two Democrats. Mathematically, he might have it.
I'll sit. I'm reserving judgment on Kevin Pavra. His platform's a little long, so I'm trying to figure out how to get you in because we're doing IG Live, but we're also doing YouTube. I would like to have you hop on YouTube, but that will require me inviting you via email, and I don't want you giving out your email to everybody. So, because I know you're a busy guy and you don't want everybody to have your email.
So there's a Flag Day event. That person that was asking, it's in Westminster, Sunday, June 13th, 10:30 to 2. It's called Happy Flag Day, MAGA birthday. RSVP at ca45patriots@gmail.com to receive location address. So Kelly Earnby is going to be there. She ran for assembly. Dr. Del Marmol, I don't know what that is. He's apparently an epic story. He'll tell his epic story of escaping Cuba and living the American dream. Amy Fan West, and then James P. Bradley, who's running for U.S. Senate, will be there. Is Armand here Arnett here to yell at me about my suggestions for
your Tremino suggestion?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is he still on there? I can't. If he is, just wave hi. We could always hop off this and then just stay on IG Live if people want to have more of a informal conversation there.
Yeah, we can do that for a little bit.
That way we can end this YouTube, and then this stream, that what we were talking about throughout this, will be put up on the audio as well. It's also be on my channel. So we'll end the broadcast here and we'll head over to IG Live and we'll continue our conversation over there. All right, later.